Let's take a look at how I might start this project from scratch in Fusion, creating native geometry. And so I'm going to go to the top view on my view cube, and my units are set to inches, and I'm going to start a new sketch on the XY plane. I'll then draw a rectangle to the right of the origin over, and I'll draw it any size to begin with. Now when I'm out on the shop floor, say setting up a milling machine or a lathe or a table saw, whatever machine, the first thing I do is establish an origin. And it makes sense to use the Cartesian coordinate system origin as my origin. So I'm going to put a midpoint constraint between this line and the origin, and so now we see that pops over to the origin. I'm then going to put a dimension on here for this distance from here over to here, and I'm going to do that dimension, let's say, as 3.375. Now if I want to change that, I can always double click on that dimension and change it to some other size, and the geometry updates automatically. I want this to be a wedge shape, so I'm going to delete this horizontal constraint, and I'll delete this horizontal constraint. And actually, before I did that, I should have put a construction line across here, so let's do that now. And so I'm going to go to the midpoint of this line, and I'm going to change that to construction. So I'll select it and hit X, and that converts it to a construction line. Now the reason I did that is so when I drag this, we see that these two go together because this is to the midpoint. And actually I should have put a dimension over here, so let's dimension one side of this, and let's do that as, say, 2.197. and again, we can change these dimensions if we want this to be 2.2 instead, something easier to measure out on the shop floor. We can change that, and we only changed it by 0.03 of an inch, but whatever. If we want that 2.197, then dimension it 2.197. I'm then going to dimension this line, and I'm going to dimension that as 2.1. And again, we could dimension it to whatever we want. Now that leaves us an angle, a slight angle between these two of 1.7, but angles are really difficult to measure out on the shop floor. And actually, if I go to the measure tool, we see that that's 1.69752.854 degrees. So it's easier to measure these straight line distances than it is to measure angles. And these are nice simple numbers. I'm going to change this line also to construction, so I'll select it and hit X. And then I'm going to put another construction line going out here, so I'll put a line out here, and again I want to change that to construction, so I'll hit the X key. And I'm going to draw a circle somewhere on this line, but not at the center of this line. I'll draw it somewhere on the line out to the end of this line, and then I'm going to give that circle a radius dimension. So I'll dimension, I'll select the arc, I'll right click, I'll tell it I want to give it a radius dimension, and let's say that's 0.3875, or whatever radius you want to have that. Again, you can double click on that and change that. If I want it to be 1 inch, I can make it 1 inch. I can make it whatever I want. Now I'm going to draw a line, and I want it to be tangent to this arc up to this point. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to hold the mouse button down. Don't let go of it. Notice it's going to do a tangent. Actually, I went the wrong way around now, but I'll go down here to this one, and then I'll go tangent from here up to here. So notice those two tangent constraints. Let's drag this out here a little bit further. I'm going to trim off, and I don't really need to do this, but I'm going to trim off these two pieces. And then I'm going to also dimension from this line over to this point. Now watch this geometry. Now right now it's blue. I'm going to go ahead and dimension that, and notice that it turns black. I'm going to do that at 4.1875, and that lets me know that this geometry is fully defined. Now I have some fillets that I want to put in these four corners, but oftentimes it's better to do the fillets as features rather than this sketch. In fact, maybe even do this one. If I put a point out here and I'll make that point coincident, this point coincident to this line and coincident to this line, so that defines where these two lines would intersect. And if I dimension that from here to that point, now it's going to tell me that it doesn't really need that dimension because it's already defined, but I want to see what it is. And I see that that's 4.3. Now I might leave this fillet out, instead have this line go to here, have this line go to here, and maybe do that, round that off to nice easy numbers, 4.325. But I just was curious to see that, and so I'll put it in there to see what it was. Now I'm going to do the extrusion, so I'll do extrude, and I'll extrude at a distance of 0.75. And then I'll put my fillets as placed features rather than the sketch. That keeps the sketch a little more simple. So I'm going to select this edge, and I'll select this edge. I'll do 0.25 on those two edges, and then I'll do fillet again. I'll select this edge. Notice I can select right through the part, and I'll select this edge, and I'm going to do those as 0.35. And so that's a start on doing keeping our sketches simple. And again, if I turn on the dimension visibility of that sketch, if I want to change any of these dimensions, I can easily just double click on that, change that to whatever, and all of the geometry updates because we're doing parametric modeling.